Okie dokie. Well, it's going to be a pretty simple class today. No pressure. No role play.
Ooh.
Easy peasy. A lot of paper. But we're going to start out just talking about burnout, ethics, and then this paper stuff is working at Anew Day. But we're going to first talk ever so briefly about burnout and ethics. So under, let's see, what page are we on? 120. Yeah, that last chapter 10. Yeah. So I'm not going to do slides. We're just going to use our book.
Okay.
So this first group of issues are issues that would cause burnout. Working too hard, poor time management, personal stresses, working with clients that trigger you, doing more work than the client, that's a big one, or holding too tight to your own agenda. So now we'll talk just a little bit more about each one of those issues, and just feel free to add your comments or questions. So let's see, working too hard. Well, obviously, if we're working too hard, we're going to burn out. You basically have too many things on your plate. You want to be doing more and more. Gosh, that happened to me today. I thought, oh my gosh, shocking. I've overcommitted myself. I had to call somebody to bail me out on taking a meal to someone. I can't do that today. So if you find that you're working too hard and you're coming on board here, it's probably worth your while to think, what can I let go of? Because you're taking on a new thing, and it's almost like you do need to let go of something when you add another thing to your plate. Most of us do. Obviously, poor time management. You'll just feel a little behind if you're not good with that, and I can't help you with that. Personal stresses. In life, that comes up for all of us. Unexpected family issues or whatever, and it's always okay to come to me or Keith and say, I need to take some time off. There's a lot going on and I just feel like I can't fully be here, and so I need to take a break. And counselors do that because a lot of our counselors are here literally 10 years plus. Yeah. And so there's a time when you say, I need to take a season of rest. And we would rather keep you rested and you take breaks than lose you. So that's always just a fine thing to do. And then working with clients that trigger you, that can really burn you out. And so it's important to think about what clients might trigger me. And initially, as I start out, I'm going to avoid those clients. When I first started counseling, I shared this already, that I was a very young new stepmom, and I had wild teenage boys. I was very triggered by teenage boys, by unruly. So it's like, no, I'm not going to see them because I wouldn't have been a good counselor for them. I was triggered. Now it's very different for me, and a lot of times it seems like those things that were your deficits turn out to be assets, that you have more understanding of certain things. So I no longer have that issue, but it's really okay to acknowledge this is a group of people that I really might want to not connect with initially. So I'm just going to give you like 1 minute just to think about who that might be, or what group of people that might be. And this is just for you. I'm not going to ask you to share. And go ahead and write that down. What group might, or what issues might be a trigger for you at this point that you might want to just say, no, thank you.
At some point in time, it can be helpful, though,
Absolutely,
to work with people that have similar past issues, right?
Absolutely.
But
absolutely,
knowing yourself and knowing when you're ready for that.
Exactly.
Okay.
You'll know.
I'm sorry, that
ready.
was a question.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. When you feel you're ready, and I think, and we've talked a lot about in counseling. There's that word, appropriate self-disclosure. We don't go in talking about ourselves, but when we are seeing a client and we find that there's something that we've dealt with at the right time, it's very appropriate to share that with them, and it's really a bonding thing with your client, and it's helpful. They feel really safer with someone who's been through their same circumstances. Yeah. No, I think it's definitely an asset at this point. Another issue, this is the big one here, is working harder than the clients. And I think that's where, as lay counselors, where we can get tripped up. We see it, we want it so badly for our clients. We're working so hard, we're giving them the tools, and they're, kind of come along slow, and we're maybe going to get a little frustrated because they're not going as fast as we want. We're working too hard. We need to pull back, realize this is not about my pace. It's about my client's pace. And it's okay that I think I see it very clearly, but they're having to go a little slower at that. And I think and it's really good. We all get frustrated with our clients at some time, so there's no shame in that. It's important to share it. And I think 90% of the time it is because we are working harder than our clients. So it's good to have your fellow counselors remember, okay, pull it back. They're coming along, but it's slower, and it's really okay. That'll burn you out. Holding too tight to your own agenda, and that's kind of the same idea. You have a plan, you want them to do this certain thing, and they might feel, nope, that's not quite how I see it. That's not quite the direction I want to go with this. And yeah, we're all different, and we have to step back and honor those individuals' choices, even if we think they're maybe not the best. I'm going to stay in this situation even though it's unhealthy, and that's what I'm going to choose to do. Okay. So just remember, slower is faster. Okay, so that's anything up. That's it on burnout. Anything that you have to add or that you thought of when I was talking about this, about burnout? No.
When you so the first one, doing more work than the clients, watching them not maybe take your advice or go the direction that you want them to go. What is like the advice that you would give us to be able to like accept that? Because I know like even with like friends and family, sometimes you can tell them everything and mean so well, and they make their own choices, and it's like it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So what do we as the counselors do to kind of let that go and have that boundary?
Well, I think bringing it up and just sort of having your fellow counselors support you and go, yeah, that's frustrating, yeah, that's hard.
So we all kind of talk together during the week about what we're doing with our case.
We do at the staff meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, it's the advice you're going to get is breathe,
let it go.
Really, we're really not the we don't know everything. We can't live their life. We don't really know what it's like to live in their skin. So just being respectful of the choices that they're making, and trusting that they're doing the best they can and making the best choices for themselves, and getting out of the way, staying in your own lane. Right?
Yeah.
We support people, but we don't get in and drive their car. Yeah. Okay. But thanks for asking that. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to ethics. At Anew Day, we abide by the Code of Ethics produced by the California State Board of Behavioral Sciences, which governs the licenses of professional therapists. So we hold ourselves, and Keith and I hold you all to the same standard that we are held to. And these are the issues and I'll go over these individually a little bit as well, but these are the things that are absolutely non-negotiable. Confidentiality, avoiding dual relationships, staying within your scope of competence, documenting your sessions, mandated reporting, and maintaining your expertise. So these are all standards that we are required to live by as a registered therapist, and so are you. So confidentiality. confidentiality is sacred, and I know I've talked about that before, but I can't stress that enough, and I'm very proud to say that we have people here really understand that. It's honored, but it's sacred. And I always say, treat other people's information like you would want yours to be treated, right? I think that says it all right there. So any kind of communication, which includes verbal, written, telephone, audio, videotaped, or electronic communication, is all confidential. Now, you're not going to come up with against those other things. You're just going to have possibly a phone call and your sessions. But all of that is absolutely confidential, to be discussed only with me or Keith, or whoever is the clinical supervisor here, or during staff meeting. But certainly not with anyone in the office, in the front office, anyone at home, your spouses, not even with another counselor on your own. It's only when we're all together or when you're talking to us, because it's just really important that we guard people's personal information. And I think I told you this before, that when we're at staff meetings, we use either nicknames, or we don't use anyone's name ever. A lot of my counselors will say, this is my 69-year-old woman who just is going through a divorce or whatever. And so right away I go, oh yeah, okay. Honestly, I don't even know their names. I mean, I certainly can look at them, but it's not necessary to be supervising and talking about what we're going to do. It's not necessary to know who that person is. Again, at staff meeting, when you're presenting your client, you'll be very careful to not give any identifying information. So again, they work in food services, not they work at Maria's, right? So general information to help us get a feel for this person, but we don't want any identifying information. Also, if you're in staff meeting and somebody starts talking about someone and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I think that's my neighbor, you are obligated to say, oop, I think I need to leave the room. And you leave, and we call you when you come back in. So anyone that you have, that if you're recognizing anyone that's being discussed, you have to excuse yourself. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. So, because we want to treat our clients like we would want to be treated, right? So I think that's, if you just remember that, you got it. And then this big bold box in the middle says, if you are unable to maintain confidentiality, you will be asked to leave a new day. And breaching confidentiality will open you to a potential civil lawsuit. So it's a big deal. And you just have to be very clear that you're a person able to do this. Okay. Dual relationships. The dual relationship is when you have one or more different connections with this person. So with your client, we want this to be your only connection. If in the past I've had clients, this wouldn't come up for you because you're not paid, but I do landscaping, so can I trade landscaping for my counseling? And it seems like that'd be simple enough, but that's unethical. And the reason is that any time that we can that we make ourselves dependent on our clients, that can infect that relationship. I mean, maybe they do a bad job, and so then I want to go. Then I'm irritated when they come in for their counseling session or whatever. So no, just only that single relationship with that client. Okay. Yeah, again, we should never depend on our clients for anything. And the other thing is that there's a perceived balance of power with clients. They tend to think that we have more power just by the nature of our roles, and it's very important to honor that and to be respectful, to not abuse that power that we have. So, and then scope of competence. We know and respect the boundaries of competence in ourselves and in others. We make only truthful, realistic statements about our identity, education, experience, credentials, and about counseling goals and progress, avoiding exaggerated and sensational claims. So sometimes there is, typically clients don't ask us, but a client might say, well, what is your training? How much? And we're just truthful. If they ask that, we just answer truthfully. We do not offer services or work beyond the limits of our competence, and do not aid or abet the work of Christian counseling by untrained, unqualified, or unethical helpers. So it's just really important that we offer good services, and when it gets beyond what we are able to do, that we refer on, or whatever it is that we need to do. But you'll be way more confident than you think. Okay, when to consult. And this is an ethical thing for professional counselors, because you will consult every single week. So you're not going to have to wait for any issues to come up to consult. Maybe not you personally every week, but there's always that availability if you're going along and a snag comes up in your session, you always have that opportunity to say, hey, I need to talk today. I always start with saying, who really needs to share today, and make sure that those people get in, and then you'll want to share your case at least like once a month, sort of an update, and get the support and encouragement. So as a professional, we consult when we face issues that we haven't dealt with before, or we don't have any experience in handling. When clients need further help outside the scope of our training and practice. When either counselor or client feels stuck or confused about counseling and neither is clear what to do about it. Or when counselees are deteriorating or making no realistic gain over a number of sessions. But as I said, we will be consulting on an ongoing basis all the time. So, okay, documentation, the fun part. Counselors maintain appropriate documentation of their counseling sessions and any contact with clients. So anytime you'll get an intake and you'll look at it and you'll call that person to offer a session, and then on the back you'll document, called and left a message offering an appointment at 2 on Friday. So every little contact you make is documented. Every session that you have, you will write session notes, and we'll go over that a little more, but it's basically just so that you can remember what's going on, although you will. But if something happens and you break your leg and can't come in, and another counselor has to pick up your case, they should be able to read it and kind of know what's going on. So it's for others as well as for yourself. We'll talk more about notes in a minute when we get to them, when we get to my little paper packet. Okay, mandated reporting. And again, I think we've talked about this, but there are 4 exceptions to confidentiality that we inform our clients of way before we start doing any counseling, because they have a legal right to know this. But we are required to report if we suspect child abuse, if we suspect dependent adult or elder abuse, if we the duty to warn. If someone specifically threatens another person, we have the responsibility to warn that person, or if a person is a danger to themselves or others. So this is all done under supervision. You'll never make these decisions on your own. So, but you keep your ears perked up for any, just any hints of any kind of abuse. And if then you come and talk to us, and we decide. If indeed we decide that, yeah, this is a CPS reportable thing that we probably should follow through on, we will help you do it. It's a one little form. We help you fill it out. So, And you only do this with under our supervision. You wouldn't do this on your own. And then maintaining expertise, and that is, you are required to come to regular staff meetings because we tell people that you're being supervised. So you need to come in and be supervised. Now, obviously, you can. I mean, if you miss one, it's not a big deal. Or even if you miss up to one a month, I think that's not a big deal. But on a regular basis, this has to be on your calendar. It's Tuesdays at noon, so I hope you all have that time available. That's what we got right now.
Are the appointments that are scheduled, are the rooms completely booked before and after that, so people only have to come in once a week?
That's a very popular time. That is a very good question.
I was thinking that might be a popular time.
But we've never had the situation where you weren't able to do that. But yes, 2 o'clock, because our staff meeting is 12 to 1:30, and it makes total sense. You're here, you want to do your block of time. 2 o'clock Tuesday is the most popular time.
Yeah.
But as I said, we've never not been able to accommodate someone. We've had to get creative a little bit. I've even, when we were at a place where it seemed like it was coming out more, I would be sure to not have anything going on so that my office was available, which is fine too. Another popular time, but not nearly as popular, is 11, just before. So, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was a really good question. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to give you guys just a little tiny bit of a break here. And I'm going to stand up, walk, go get a drink,
Okay.
and then we'll come back and shuffle these papers. Alrighty, so we are going to, I stopped at scope of confidence. Is that where I stopped? No, maintaining it. Okay, serving at a new day. Get your papers out. Here we go. Okay. So, stages of counseling. There are those initial sessions that we've talked about many times. You're just working on making a connection. You're establishing rapport. Slow down, breathe, just get to know your client, get to know their world. As that time goes on, or sometimes they come in right away and say, this is what I want to work on. So then as we go along, not necessarily the first couple sessions, but they'll say, I really want to, my goal is to reconcile with my daughter. Okay, great. So then we talk more about that, and there may be even a plan on what steps this client's going to take to make this reconciliation happen, so that we would set goals. And then it is a good idea to set periods of time to reevaluate. And this is really for you and for your client. Like, just make a note in your chart when it's been about 3 months. Just say, hey, let's do a little check-in. We started out, you were working on this. Is that still the direction you're wanting to go? Are you feeling like the pace we're going at is good for you? Just do a little check-in. I have started at this late date in my career asking, when I have a session that feels like nothing happened, we didn't get anywhere, and again, this is mostly with couples, it's like, oh my gosh, this was like not productive at all. I'll just say, was there anything helpful today? How do you guys feel? I just ask. And interestingly enough, I think it's helpful because then they will think, they go, well, what was helpful was I learned blah, blah, blah. So it almost helps them find what was good about it, find what they learned. And I'm guessing if I said a couple of times, I expect them to say, no, this was terrible. and at that point I would say, I felt like we didn't get too much traction either. Can you help me? Maybe am I missing something? What do you think I could do to make that better? Or if they say it was terrible when this happened, but it's the end of my session, I'll say, thank you for that. I kind of felt like that too, and we'll start with that next week. So thanks for that feedback. So it's just all about being vulnerable, realizing we're not perfect, being real, just being real. People appreciate it. They trust us when we're real. Okay, so scheduling your first client. So when you're ready, like next week when you get your prints done, all of you, oh, except Doug, you'll come in and meet with Keith, unless it's next week, because next week's my last week. And he'll help you pick out a client. What I advise counselors to do is look through the book of the people waiting. We have the ones waiting the longest on top, so those are our preferred people. But you might look and see whose schedule fits yours. It sounds like you're going to want Tuesday at 2. So you're going to look through and see who has that time frame. So that's a good way to start with it, just to start with what is your schedule. So let's look at this top paper on your pile that says intake. So this is what you'll see in the book. It will have the person's name, age, a few other things, and then when are you available. So you'll see the days that they want to be seen. And an example might be Monday, Wednesday, or Friday AMs, something like that. So you'll see what their preferences are. You'll want to look for someone that kind of matches your schedule. And then you can look down and see what the client is saying that they want to work on. So that can help you rule out or rule in It's the person that you might want to work with. So after you and Keith together decide, okay, this is the client I'm going to take, you'll give them a call, and we usually use the phones here so that the number is the Anew Day number, and you're not using your own cell phone. And you'll call and you'll say, hi, this is Doug, and I'm from Anew Day, and I'd like to offer you an appointment Tuesday at 2. And if it's a machine, which 90% of the time it is, you'll say, please give me a call back in the next couple days if you're interested. And then when they call back and they say, yes, I want that appointment, our admin will call you and say your client called and confirmed they're going to be here. Very, very often, they don't call back that first time, and we ask you to give them a second call. Just things can happen. And so we always give them that 1 second call. Hi, this is Doug. I left a message before, but I'm still interested in offering you Tuesdays at 2. If I don't hear back from you by Friday, I'm going to assume that you no longer want our services, and just know in the future you can call and get in on our waiting list. So
in general, how are people hearing about New Day? Where are these people coming from? And are they just hearing in the community? Are they just walking in? Do they
very
hear at
little
church? I mean,
yeah, not too much walking in. We occasionally get a crisis person that walks in, and then Keith or I will take that person, but we don't get walk-ins. Friends,
word of mouth.
the internet, their church.
And then they find this form online and fill it out.
No, they call. They call
okay.
in, and whoever answers the phone, which would be either Debbie, Julie, or Garrett, sometimes Tricia, occasionally me if I'm, So so we fill out the form. They call in. So this is a call-in. They call in and make an appointment.
Okay.
Now, if somebody did walk in, the same thing would happen. I can schedule an appointment for you, unless the person in the front of the office thinks it's a crisis, and then they'll come get us, and we'll sit with them.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a phone. This is a phone call. Okay. If you decide, if you're in a hurry, you picked out your client, but you have a dentist appointment, and you have to run out the door, you can go ahead and call from your own phone. And what we recommend is you do star 67 first, because then your number doesn't show up. And you can, and then call back at a New Day, 470-9111. Have them call back to a New Day. After you're comfortable with your client, a lot of, especially of our professionals, let their clients have their number, and they text, because then they'll get a real quick response if, hey, I can't make it, or our professionals will remind them of their appointment if there's somebody who consistently forgets. And I let people have my number too. I haven't had any problems with it, but we just encourage you to not start out safe. And then as you know your client, and if you want to do that, you would never have a conversation with them. It would only be for reasons of canceling either way, or rescheduling. That's the only reason you would be on the phone or texting. Okay. And then on the back of this intake form, if you flip it over, oops, it's not there. On the back of most of the intake forms, this very first one that we were looking at, there's a place where you would document. I called client and left a message and offered an appointment for 2 o'clock. And then there's a place in the book that this goes in. I printed these, and somehow the back of this didn't get printed. So I will see if that doesn't happen again. Okay. So let's go on to the next page. So far, so good?
Mm-hmm.
So when the client arrives, they are given this next form, this client information form. It's next in your packet. And they fill this out. And if they're a minor, it's the next form that they fill out. It might be easier if you take that paper clip off, because then it's more clear, and just, there you go. That's going to be easier, yeah. So the client information, this is what they fill out before you go into your session. The one thing I want to point out to it on the front page that you'll always want to make sure and note is almost at the very end it says, have you ever had thoughts of self-harm? Yes or no? Have you ever had any suicidal thoughts? Yes or no? It's very important that you look at that and be aware and ask questions about that. If there's a yes. We ask you to ask during that first session at least twice when you have a client that has especially depression, feelings of hopelessness, despondency. Ask them twice if they have suicidal thoughts. And I'm sure it was drummed into you on that suicidal class that it is a myth that we plant the seed of suicide when we ask those questions. And we want to be able to ask, have you have suicidal thoughts? As easy as we ask, would you like a cup of coffee?
Do you ask them to differentiate between, have you had these thoughts? Are you having them right now? What scale?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
how severe are they?
Right.
Because lots of people have had suicidal thoughts in the past.
Yeah, most of us have,
Right.
frankly. You know, typically if I see that, I'll say, so I see here that you've had suicidal thoughts. Can you tell me about that? Well, you know, I think about it sometimes because life is so overwhelming and I just sometimes don't want to go on, but no, I would never do anything. So that's called suicidal ideation, you know. And so we, you know, so you don't really have any plans or any, no, I would never do that because, and usually people say, why? I would never do that because I wouldn't want to hurt my family. And there's that whole suicidal protocol. If they say yes, you just say, you know, this is really important. Your health, your welfare is very important to me. So I need to pull out this paper because I want to make sure and do it right. This is very important. And you just go through those questions that I'm sure you did in class, right? Did y'all do that in class?
I don't remember that.
Don't remember.
Yeah.
Kenny says yes.
We went through it.
Maybe you weren't here that time.
Maybe.
Yeah. The other thing, quite frankly, is that we told you in that class is if you have anybody that is suicidal, you come and get us. We don't expect you to handle that. You just say, you know what, I'm not that experienced in this, and you're very important, and I'm going to go get somebody who's more experienced. You deserve the best, and that's just fine. Just fine. Okay. So you'll get this form, and you'll get to look it over and see what they say. But before you start your counseling session, it is very important that you go over those rules of confidentiality again. I do it verbally, and some of our counselors that have been here a long time just do it verbally, but we actually have a form in here for you to read because you'll do it once and then you won't do it again for a very long time. Where is it? Ah.
I'm confused.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the client information adult.
Yes.
And you said you'll get this form.
Yes.
Who will fill it out with the client?
The client fills it out themselves.
At their first session with me?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's two ways that can happen. Typically, when you know you have a client coming in, you'll tell Debbie, say, I have a new client coming in. She'll have this already when they come in and they say, I'm Steve and I'm here to see Doug. She'll say, can you fill this out?
Okay.
And then when they have it filled out, she'll get you and then you'll go out into the waiting room and get them.
Got it.
And she'll give that to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it's if it has happened with something chaotic or whatever, you'll just or maybe nobody's at the window. You'll say, "Come on back," and then you'll hand them the clipboard in your office, and you'll wait for them to fill that out.
Got it. Okay.
So before you start talking, because sometimes people come in, they just want to start talking. That's why it's good to do it in the waiting room because they have to look at this. Rules of confidentiality, reasons they won't be. And I'm sorry to say that there's a piece of paper missing in my packet that it says to be read at first session. So when we take a little break again, I will run and get that. I don't seem to have it. But it's a paper that you read.
Yes.
So that,
Here it is.
do you have it? Okay, great. So what I usually do and what more experienced people do, we'll just say,
It's not in that packet, it's in your pile.
I'll say, everything that you, before you talk, no, I don't let you talk until you need to hear this. Everything you tell me is confidential, unless I suspect elder abuse, child abuse, that you're going to hurt yourself or you're going to hurt someone else. And then I am a mandated reporter. So I always make sure and verbally say that. You guys have to say a lot more. You have to say, I'm a lay counselor, I'm supervised, blah, 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 blah. So we typically say, before we begin, I need to give you some information. So would you read that, Karina, for us? This is what you'll read to your client
Yes.
before they start talking.
Okay, so before we begin our session, I want you to know that your confidentiality is very important to us. However, if you threaten to harm yourself or someone else, or there is reason to suspect child or elder abuse, then I will have to break confidentiality. I am a lay counselor receiving group supervision weekly from a licensed therapist. During these meetings, we will discuss our cases for training purposes, and in signing this form, you are giving me your permission to do this. Your name will not be used, and I will make every effort to ensure your confidentiality. If one of the counselors in the group is a personal friend, he or she will excuse themselves from the room during this time. Please give me at least 24 hours notice if you need to cancel our appointment. If it's snowing, please tune in to KNCO for closure information. Our sessions will be 50 minutes long. You want me to keep going?
Mm-hmm.
As a lay counselor, I am a volunteer without formal certification or licensing. We are trained and supervised by a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other part is just a note to us about the.
Oh, if what the client, okay.
Yep.
So that's what you'll read. So they are fully informed legally of what are their limits to their confidentiality are and what we do with their information. So there you go. So it's very important that you read
Super
that.
helpful that it's written to be read.
Yes.
That's
Yeah. And just and some counselors feel silly. I don't know. We'll just always say there's a lot of information and it's important. I just don't want to miss anything. So people are fine with you just reading that form. If you're the next, let's get rid of this adult one, and the next one there should be a minor. Is that next on your packet? Client information minor. Oh yeah, there's currently we have this COVID thing they have to sign too. Basically, if I get COVID, it's not your fault. And then here's the minor client information. If you have a minor, you must have the parent's signature before you start talking to the minor. If you have a minor, this will go out into the waiting room for them to fill out. And the other thing that we have asked you never to do is to take a parent and a minor into the counseling room with you. And that is because you're not trained to deal with whatever might come. People will go and they'll be a session starting, and it'll be like a runaway train.
Mhm.
It's possible. So we just don't want to set you up for that. So you just go out into the waiting room, and if the mom says, I would like to speak to you before you take my daughter in, great, come on in, Mom. We have 10 minutes. And if it's a teenager, I'll say to the teenager, is that okay with you if we take 10 minutes? I will acknowledge them.
Mhm.
And then do the 10 minutes with Mom and then take her. So anyway, don't just, yeah. Just to cover yourself. Okay. So I'm on step 4. Read what the client put on the front page of the intake form. Get clarification of their answers as necessary. You can look at it, I see, whatever, you have this in here, whatever. And then if the client marked yes to receiving counseling elsewhere, in other words, I'm currently in counseling elsewhere, it's unethical for us to counsel someone who's already in counseling somewhere else. Go ahead and finish your session, but let them know, but talk to them, that's not ethical. You can't be doing double counseling unless, most cases what that is that person is already maybe in couples counseling with someone else. Well, then you can go ahead and counsel the individual because the couple is the client in the other thing. So you're not duplicating services. We cannot duplicate services, so that you're not. The other thing that most often comes up is they say, well, I see a psychiatrist. Well, how often do you see your psychiatrist? And what they're going to say is every 3 months for 15 minutes,
Yeah.
right? It's a medication review. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
I don't know really anyone who really sees it, a psychiatrist an hour a week. That's just not what they do. So, but we double check that and make sure we're not. And then if you have any questions about it at all, check with Keith. Make sure we're not, because that's unethical to duplicate services.
So, there's
Yeah.
lots of gray there. They were seeing someone, but they haven't seen him in 2 months.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then you're done with that counselor. Okay.
Right.
Great. Come
Yeah.
on in.
Okay.
Yeah. Or they might say, well, I'm seeing someone, but I'd rather go somewhere else. But I said, well, then they have to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can call me back when you're finished with your sessions there, or if you decide to stay there, that's fine too. Okay. Any other questions on that? Yeah. And as I said, this is kind of, you learn on the job. You just keep asking questions, and after a while you've asked them all and you got it. So this is a learn on the job situation. Okay. So step 5, we're on the first sessions. You're getting to know your client. You're going to be warm, you're going to be personable, you're going to use a soft tone of voice, and you're going to use their information as a springboard for confirmation using your reflective listening skills. So a good way to do that is if you can find your session notes. So in this pile of papers, after the minor, then there's another minor thing, then there's a thing that you read at the first session, then there should be some session notes. Mm-hmm. And I think I showed you this before, but I'm going to show you again a trick that I like. I take, on the back are these active listening prompts that are really helpful during the session. So I take that and I fold it over so that I can see those, and I have that at the top of my clipboard. So that when I'm asking for more, tell me more about, you say here that you just lost your job. Wow, how horrible for you. See, I'm validating their feelings. Can you tell me more about that? So this is here so that it's reminding me, if my brain freezes, what am I supposed to be doing in here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see. Restating, rephrasing. So there's your active listening tools. It reminds me to listen for feelings. Oh, that must have made you feel really sad. Is that right? We're trying to help them find feelings. We ask good questions here, and these are the things that will really help you. Can you tell me more about that? When you say that, blah, 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 tell. So anyway, these are prompts for you that can help you during the session. And after a while, it's second nature. But I think when you're starting, it's helpful, just in case you don't. What do I do now? Okay, let's see. Tell me more. Tell me more about. My favorite is help me understand. It's a good one.
I have kind of a backtracking question.
Sure.
So, use the soft voice.
Yeah.
If I have a little bit of like a hearing problem, there's times where I won't hear super well and I'll be loud without knowing. Is it okay to disclose that to a client so they know that like I'm not yelling at them if I'm being louder than I should be in a moment?
Yeah.
And
of
even
course.
like they can make me aware of it. Like, hey, if I'm being loud, let me know.
Yeah.
Because that's what most people do. But I just wondered if that was
Yeah.
acceptable
Of
or if
course.
that's like oversharing.
No, if you think it's going to interfere in any way, I doubt it will. I haven't noticed it at all. So you seem to have.
It's just like certain times of the year, allergies and stuff, my
Oh,
ears
sure.
get really plugged and I get like super loud. And my husband will tell you it's
Yeah.
bad. But if I can disclose
Yeah.
that, then that would
Absolutely.
be fine.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
That would be a good thing to share, yeah. And another thing on these communication skills here, what you might want to write on top is slow and low. That will remind you, especially if you're nervous, to slow down and to lower your voice, because as you notice, I talk fast and high too. But as I lower my voice, it's calming. As I slow down, it's calming. And so that can just remind you if you think you might get in there and race.
Okay.
Or talk fast and loud like I
Or
do. Okay. I'm from a large family. You had to talk loud. Okay. First sessions, get to know your client. I'm on step 5. Be warm, use soft tone of voice, use their information as a springboard for conversation, use your reflective listening skills, get some history on the problem. Look for opportunities to validate your client's feelings. That is very, very key. That is when people feel heard. That is when they feel safe. That is when they get less anxious. And often it will be you that will call out that feeling. They'll be saying, this happened and that happened and the other thing happened. Wow, that must have been really hard for you. Was that really sad for you? How was that for you? So you can introduce those feeling words with a question mark, and you can't guess wrong because they will correct you if you guess wrong. They just appreciate that you're listening that well, and so it's really okay to guess wrong. They'll help you. But usually you'll get it. You can tell. Remember, this is supposed to be unshockable, not unshakable. Remember to be unshockable. So whatever your client says, you can potentially hear some rough things in here. That must have been so hard for you. So just, you'll respond, you'll validate their feelings, but you're not going to be, oh my gosh. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So you're unshockable. Your first concerns in that first session is always if there's any crisis issues, if you sense there's any kind of crisis, those same things that we've talked about. Safety issues, suicidality, which we've talked about, or ethical concerns. Again, those ethical concerns are, am I duplicating services? Do I know this person? That's all I can think of right now that might be ethical. And then step 5 is wrapping up your first session. So you'll make sure that you give your client referrals if needed. We have an ongoing women's group that's, if you're feeling like your client needs a little more support than just that once a week, you can let them know about that group. If they're dealing with alcohol or substances, you can let them know about AA, Al-Anon, any of those resources. Unfortunately, we don't currently have a men's group. We used to. I wish we did. We don't. A lot of times we have a boundaries class going on, so if that's happening and it feels like that might be appropriate, you can share that with them. And 211 is just the magic number. to share with them or to help them use for resources. Are y'all familiar with 211?
No?
Yeah.
What is it?
We learned in this class.
Yeah.
That was super cool.
Yeah. You just dial 211, and it's a local community resource. You can say, can you tell me where the AA classes are? Can you tell, whatever. It's like this information center, and this organization stays updated on really what's happening. It's an amazing resource. I actually called them, I forget what for, and it might have been for someone else even. And it seemed to me it might even, I can't really remember what it even was, but they were so helpful and give me that answer, and then they sort of can guess maybe who you are, and they'll even offer, because it was a senior question, I forget what it was. Oh well, and are you aware that there's this service for seniors? Is that something you'd want to know about, or and they offer even more information than you call about. They're really helpful. Yeah. So.
But is it all for like medical stuff?
No.
Like, where can I get my dog's nails clipped?
Well, I don't know about that.
I'm trying to get a handle on what they do.
I think it's more for like social services.
Okay.
Support services, mental health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I could be wrong. They might not. They might know that. Call and ask.
Yeah.
Can we go back a step?
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the women's group and the men's group, and what do they talk about in those groups? What type of support do they offer? What would be appropriate?
Susie Rosas leads the women's group, and it's drop-in, so whoever wants to come comes. I can just tell she's just a spirit-filled woman, and she just loves on people, and people come in feeling super welcome. She just gives people a space to talk. She's just very good at coordinating. She often brings in a sheet, maybe a little bit like on a boundaries group a little bit. There might be a sheet that she reads about, and then people can comment on it. Maybe something about relationships. So she does it a little different each time, but it's just, if you have a need, you'll be supported, and if maybe there's nothing going on, she'll have another little thing just to discuss. So she's really good. Unfortunately, it went online during COVID, and she still is online because her husband is having health issues right now. So she's saying, right now I just have to stay close. So I'm keeping it here for now. We did have a men's group at one point, and then we didn't have a leader, and then we got a leader, and he was available, and he kept coming in, but it wasn't getting started, and so we just don't currently have a men's group. Yeah. We occasionally have grief groups, especially sometimes before the holidays we offer that. So there's different things.
How would we know if those things are going on? Is there a...
In the office you'll see. When we get
Okay.
done here, we'll walk in.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see.
Or dial 211.
They might not know about our groups, but they'll know about Anew Day, I guarantee it. No, I was just so impressed with this guy, and he was so kind, and yeah. Okay. So we're going to make sure any referrals, any help that we can give our client as they go out the door, we're going to give them. That's step 5. If we have a clear understanding that the client would like to be prayed for, we ask them if they would like us to pray for them. Otherwise, we pray for them after they leave. And then before they leave, we schedule their next appointment. So, notes. We do have to take notes. It is, again, one of those kind of ethical things to track our clients. The session, these are different ways that you can do notes, but let's pull out our session notes. The ones that I just had you fold over. Yeah. So after you see your client the first time, you'll talk to Julie or Garrett, and they'll give you a case number, and you'll put that on that first line, the case number, your name, the date. Every single time you see your client, you have to do a mental status. And so we've done this little checkbox just to make it simple. As a professional, you have to write out, client appealed within normal limits of, but all you have to do is go through and check. WNL is within normal limits. Typically, your client will be the same each week. So once you sort of, the first time you kind of think it through, yeah, that seems pretty normal. Oh, they were a little guarded. So I guess read over those terms. That might be helpful. And see if do you have any questions about any of those terms?
I don't know what grandiose is.
Sort of delusional thinking about I am the Queen of England, and I'm here to help you. Just out of reality.
Why is there a line behind the WNL for C and D? You put a number in there or something?
I'm sorry, where are you now?
In sections under mental status C and D,
Yes.
next to the WNLs on those, there's a line next to it, like you should write something in.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
That is,
Just
yeah.
ignore.
I you know what? I've never even noticed that. So, yeah.
Must be nothing.
Yeah, I've never noticed that. Thank you for pointing that out. I have no idea. Just check a box for each of those things.
Yeah.
And you might, for mood, there might be more than one box that you check too. So it doesn't have to be just one, but whatever fits.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, after your first time, it'll pretty much be rote. What's going on? So if the client on the intake said, yes, I sometimes have suicidal thoughts, we will address that in the session, and then we'll make notes here about that. I asked my client about suicidal ideation, and client denied, or sometimes they just put client denies.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't have it. Or not currently, or whatever. So we'll address that. And it says document reasons why not. A lot of times what they'll say is, like I already gave that example, I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't put my family through that, or whatever. Okay, clients' goals. You may or may not get to that. When people come in their first time, sometimes they are so happy to have someone listen to them, they just spew. You might not even know you don't even get their whole story before they go. So don't be too distressed if you're not getting goals the first time. You might though. I always start out with saying, oh, I see that you checked this on your intake, but tell me what you came in here. What brings you in today? That's always a good question. And then they usually have a lot to say. And really you're spending your whole time being cognizant of active listening and validating feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter what the issue is, it's the same deal.
So they're going to have a lot of information, and some of it I'm going to want to circle back around to,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just going.
That's right.
Do you make notes as they're flying by?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I actually, you can just flip this, or I've just taken a pad of yellow paper.
Mm-hmm.
Your first session, because there's so much information always that first session. It's a ton. It's just like my sons are, you're, and it's okay. Don't be concerned that you're not staring at your client the whole time. They understand you're having to write, so there's not a problem. There's a lot of writing that first session, and you will have to redo your notes that first session because I guarantee you none of us will be able to read them, and it's too hard to do that on the fly, that first session. As you go along, some people learn how to do it on the fly. You know your clients so well that you can just sort of take notes as you go. Or you might continue to do, jot over here and then do your session notes afterwards. So that's more of a personal thing. As you'll sort of find your way, but at first you will have to redo them.
Cool.
Yeah. And then we'll flip that over. And then if you have any observations, responses, interventions, or tools that you share with your client, you can make a note of that. If by chance you give them any referrals, you can make note of that. And then you'll kind of think through your session, and then you'll check these active listening tools. Did I restate? Did I and check? And really, that's just for you. I don't pay any attention. That none of us pay any attention to that. That's really just for you to remind yourself. Oh wait, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I forgot that. So it's just a tool for you, and it's kind of fun to do. And you can kind of watch yourself. Oh, I did better at that. So, any questions on notes? Nope. And there are other forms. That last line says you can use structured formats such as SOAP or DAP or unstructured. We all use this. So some of our professionals use the SOAP, and here's an example of that if you wanted to do that. But we pretty much just use this unstructured form. Any questions on any of that? Okay. And then terminating the counseling relationship. So I'll go on to that last page. Does anybody need to stand up, breathe?
I could use the bathroom real
Okay.
quick if that's okay.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick little break. Okay. So, terminating the counseling relationship. We're on page 128. So how does counseling end? Does it go on forever? No. Often around here, a typical time that you will see a client is a year. A lot of clients are here for a year. It might be, sometimes it's much shorter. At a year, I start sort of nudging the counselors saying, okay, time to let them fly free, take care of someone else on our waiting list. But sometimes there are reasons that they continue on. So there's no rule, but that's just sort of an average rule of thumb. So how counseling does end is sometimes a client drops out of therapy unexpectedly. They might just come one time and not come back. They might decide, oh, that's way too hard for me. I don't think I'm really ready for that. Oh, my wife told me to come. I came once, I'm done. There's all kinds of reasons. Don't take it personally.
Okay.
The client sometimes lets you know that they're not coming back. Oh gosh, all of a sudden, my son moved in with me and his 2 kids are here and I don't have time for this. I'm going to have to put myself on hold. They might move away. Maybe they came in to work on maybe their alcoholic drinking and they relapse and so they're just not wanting to come back in. So that could be one reason. They don't feel like they are getting their needs met. Like, well, this isn't working for me. I think I'm not going to come back in. Family or significant other pressuring. Some family members don't want their people in counseling. So if there's pressure to not be here, they might say, it's just, too hard on my relationship for me to be in here. Or the client is too afraid or just not willing or just not ready to change. They come in and check it out and go, oh, this sounds like way too much. No, I think I'll just go back to my problem. This is way too much work. So who knows? There's all, everybody has their own reasons, but don't take it personally. People are on their own path. And I keep reminding us, we get the privilege of being a small part in a person's growth or in their development. And we're not their savior. We're not the end-all, be-all to them. We're just a little piece. So we've got to keep that in mind. So formal termination is once goals have been reached, we want to prepare our client to graduate. So, for example, that example I gave earlier, I want to reconcile with my daughter. 9 months down the road, that relationship's going great, things are well, we might say, it seems like you're doing really well, and it might be just time for you to move on. Often when that happens, well, wait a minute, I'm not quite ready. And what we might do as a counselor, when we sense they really are, they just kind of like us, what happens is they just want to come in and talk because they like us. We don't want to waste your time with that. Not that that's wasting time, but you're more valuable to them. They can go have coffee with their friend down the street. You could be helping the next person on the waiting list. So if there's resistance, sometimes I say, go ahead and offer them every other week for, a month. And then they get it. They sort of go, oh yeah, I'm really okay. It's kind of like weaning them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sometimes, we do that quite often actually, go to the every other week for a little bit and then set them free.
And then if they've been gone, you've graduated them, and then some life situation occurs that throws them back into a desire, they go into the waiting list?
That's correct. And we always say as they leave, you're always free to call back in and get on the waiting list. If I'm free, I will take you, but if I'm not, you may get another. You don't guarantee that you will see them because you never know how busy you're going to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes the counselor's kind of like, the person calls back in and says, yeah, I used to see Betty and I'd like to see her again. Betty says, nah, somebody else. And just because she feels like I've done everything I can do and I feel like I made a difference, but I think this person could now use, a fresh perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not obligated to respond to people's requests. Most of the time, counselors want to, though, because they have that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever, either way is fine. As they're leaving, we're going to remind them of, the different support things. I would definitely remind them of 211. We let them know of what groups we have currently, maybe what other educational opportunities are in our community, the tools that they have learned. So remember, when you get anxious, remember we learned that, 5 senses grounding exercise, or we worked on that box breathing, or did those come up in your classes, those things? Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll introduce those to your clients often, and so you'll just remind them, you have the tools. This is how you can take care of yourself. This is what you can do. And termination issues, dependency, and this is kind of like what you just referred to, Doug. Watch for flights into issues when termination is discussed. Wait, oh my gosh, there's this, there's that. And sometimes they're real, but usually it's just kind of like anxiety, and they don't want to give you up.
Yeah.
So we just have to help them along and validate that they are super capable. They don't, they have managed this, they have the tools, they know how to do this. We want to empower our clients, right? So in our final session, we'll review the goals, basically congratulate them for the hard work they've done, the progress they've made, validate. Go over tools that they're going to want to remember if they get off track of the issue that they've just conquered. And then you'll fill out these final session notes. So you use these same session notes for every session except the end one. We use we call it a closing note. So, okay. Any questions on any of this stuff? Any paper questions?
Outstanding balance. Is that a joke?
Oh, no, that is for the professionals.
Oh,
So this is the same form that they use.
okay.
There will be no outstanding balance. We offer free counseling. We ask, or we somehow, if they would like to make a $5 donation, we appreciate that. Or if they wanted to donate, we appreciate that. But we don't charge for our services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the waiting list pretty long, typically?
It is. It's actually interesting that our professional waiting list usually isn't that long because we usually have them, we have 5 or 6 and they're taking a lot. But right now it's like the most I've ever seen in all the history of A New Day, waiting for our professionals. There is a waiting list for our lay counselors as well, but that is typical because that waiting list, we get through it slower because lay counselors typically take much fewer clients. And yeah, so that is always there, the waiting list, yeah. But I would say, yeah, for our professionals, it's never been this huge.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting during COVID. People were saying, "Oh, you must be swamped," and we really weren't. I mean, we were seeing people, everything was Zoom, but we were able to accommodate people and not a horrible waiting list. And but I think after COVID, when people are now out and about, is a lot of people just put things off,
Yeah.
right? And now they're all. We're swamped. We are swamped.
Wow.
For sure. So your next steps would be, didn't I already pass out those applications like a while back? Do y'all have an application? Did you get one, Doug? I'll get one for you. So fill out your application. The thing that takes the longest, and you could still even do this, Doug, even before you finish the class, you could fill out your application and you could give your reference forms to your references. We ask you to give 3 people a reference form, and they fill that out. That seems to take the longest to get those back in. So you can get started on those, and then once we get all that stuff back in, we'll call you, we'll have a little interview, and then you need to get a live scan. And that was in your packet also, I hope?
I don't remember.
Was that in there?
I don't think
I'll make sure you.
In the application?
Yeah. Do you have the application?
Yeah.
Last scan is with the sheriff's department.
I think you can go to like UPS.
Yeah, I think you can do sheriff's, but pretty much we go to UPS down by the Holiday Inn, which is now Miners Inn, whatever it is. And I think it's around $20.
I don't see the live scan.
Okay,
on
I'll
here.
get them for you.
Yeah.
So, and that usually, you have to take care of that too. So once all that stuff's done, we can reel you in. Yeah.
Okay.
So any other questions about the application process? Are you all gonna apply?
I am.
I'm not right now.
Okay, too much going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it. The
Okay.
only concern that I have is that I work on Tuesdays.
Oh,
But I was working on Tuesdays so that I could have Thursdays to come here, so I might be able to flip-flop.
oh, okay.
But I'll have to check.
Okay, okay. Okay, well, great, because we need you. We really need guys, for sure. I mean, we need everybody, because we have a waiting list, but our guys are harder to come by.
As women, do we typically only see women and men
Correct.
to men?
That's right.
Okay.
And so that does usually work out, because typically we have fewer male counselors, but we also have fewer men seeking counseling. But right now we have a huge amount of men waiting for counseling. And we have just 2 active counselors. 3, kind of. Yeah. Which is typical.
Give me those videos,
Two or
man.
3 active lay counselors?
Male.
Men.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's kind of typical.
Yeah.
You're always outnumbered.
Yeah.
Okay, so this last little thing, I'll leave you with this thought: Maslow's 4 stages of learning, and we kind of went over this at our very first class, if you remember.
Oh, right here.
Mhm,
Yeah.
right at the very bottom. So those 4 stages. That first stage is unconscious incompetence. So that is, you don't know that you don't know. And then the next stage is conscious incompetence. You know that you don't know. You're very aware that you don't. And usually that's where we leave you. And because people leave here and go, what the heck? They've been feeding me through a fire hose, you know. So if that's where you're feeling, that's absolutely right where you should be.
Okay.
Because you get to conscious competence, you get to that you know what you're doing with experience. As you come in, we help you along. You just only get there through experience, through being here. And you will get to that place for sure. And then if you're here long enough, you get to that place, unconscious competence. You just know what you're doing. And that eventually does happen.
Yeah. When the Holy Spirit's working through you.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
It is intimidating. Some of the role playing was intimidating.
It's totally intimidating. The lay counselors, I have lay counselors that have been serving for over 10 years, and every once in a while I want to do a role play. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I mean, it's uncomfortable. It's intimidating. Yes, it is.
Yeah. It might be more intimidating when you or Keith walks in and is listening than it will be with the client.
Absolutely.
So they're not being judged
Absolutely.
directly.
You're not thinking, oh, are they thinking that I'm doing it right? Right. If you just go in and your only focus is to connect with that client and enter their world and hear what they have to say, it's really a piece of cake. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Way different. And nobody said, no, we don't go in with you.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very trusting.
Well, you will be well trained. You're, and I remind you just as you go in, because it's normal to be nervous your first time. I just remind you, you're going to listen.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to validate that makes sense that you feel that way. I'm so sorry you feel that way. Whatever. You're going to validate their feelings, and you're going to have your little cheat sheet right there, and you're going to be saying, tell me more about, So, yeah.
Well, if you have a heart to do this type of work, we've probably all been doing counseling for our friends and family
Right.
for a while.
Right. Right. The difference is that probably we've been listening to our family and friends, but then we want to give them advice and tell them what to do.
Yeah.
No?
No, that is true. And I think that's going to be my biggest issue is to not try and fix them
It's
too
all of our,
quickly.
initially, that is all of our biggest issue. to not give advice, say, oh, well, what, but down the road, there's a place for that too. There's a place for feedback, but it's amazing how far people can get if we can just be patient and just listen and let them find, oh, this is a safe place. I can verbally process this. Oh, they can. People are much more capable when they have a safe place. Yeah, and it's good. This is good training. This is what's good training for your family and friends, right? Because we all talk back. What do they call it? Cross-talk and give advice. But when a real serious thing comes up within my family, and I get it, I just notice I just shift inside, and it's just, I go into my little counselor. I go into listening mode, and not, well, what I think you should do, which is what I usually do, because they're my family and friends, right? No, so this trains you to actually be able to be really there for big issues with your family and friends. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? I'm going to pray. Would you like to pray for us?
Sure.
Thanks.
Heavenly Father, thank you so much for providing this opportunity for us to learn and grow and perhaps understand your will even more to direct us. I pray that you give us all the courage and the wisdom and the trust in you, that you'll guide our thoughts and you'll guide our development as we seek to help people in your name. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you guys for showing up and letting us videotape you.
Yay, Kenny, thanks.
Yeah,
You're
so
saving me.